Now, let's talk about hydrogen cars and whether it has a potential in the future. Now, hydrogen cars, as the name suggests, runs on hydrogen gas. Basically, these cars have cylinders full of hydrogen, and that hydrogen is used to power the electric motor. And this is an interesting concept, but is it a practical one? That's something we have to wait and see. Because the way hydrogen cars work is basically you have cylinders of hydrogen inside the car that have to be filled up. It's kind of like filling up gas, but you have to fill up hydrogen. And then the hydrogen is put through a process where it combines with the put through a process where it is pulled into a certain, I don't know what to call it, a certain thing, and the oxygen is pulled from the air, and the electrons from both the hydrogen and oxygen is separated, and then these electrons are sent into a, what would I call it, a certain forgot the name of it, a certain mechanism where it becomes energy, and that energy powers the electric motor. And yes, hydrogen cars do run on are powered by electric motors, so it's kind of like an EV, but without actually needing to charge. So yeah, so the electricity is stored, and then electricity goes there, and then it powers the electric motor, and the excess amount of electricity produced is put into a battery. And the byproduct of this is just water, because hydrogen and the oxygen combine together and become water and just go out the car. So this is basically the process of how hydrogen cars work. Now, this seems like a bit of a complicated process, and if any damage actually happens, I don't know what the repairability cost of this will be. That's a bit concerning. I mean, as compared to internal combustion engines, those things, we know regular engines don't have any issues. They'll just run and run for a long time. But this sounds a little concerning. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. But that's not the main thing. The main problem is the hydrogen tanks can only hold a certain amount of hydrogen, and we need big tanks because hydrogen is a gas. It's more dense. I don't know dense, but a small amount of the gas it takes up more space than liquid. So you need big tanks in your car. So you're gonna have to give up a lot of space in your cars to put enough hydrogen tanks in there to actually make it usable, to get enough range. That's one thing. Now the second thing is refueling. Now this is a similar issue like what happened with EVs. Basically, there are a limited number of stations where these hydrogen cars are running. It's not something that you get in every gas station or anything. So you had to find stations, and sometimes the stations might not be working properly. There might be a huge queue, and those are some huge issues. And you have to focus your driving based on where the stations are, so that's a little frustrating. I mean, you might not be able to risk running out of hydrogen before you get the pump, so you have to focus your driving to get there. Which is a pain as compared to gasoline cars where you can just drive and there's going to be a pump somewhere along the line. You don't have to think about it too much. So yeah, that's the current issues with it. Now the range of these cars, well, the range seems to be pretty decent. Apparently cars are getting over 200 miles of range, which is a decent number. Now it's not the best, but it's decent. And does this have a future to be a next alternative to gasoline engines similar to EVs? Well, with the way the mechanism works and the range and all, it's not there yet. Now, will there be a time when they can actually manage to push out more miles, a huge amount of range from these small tanks? then we can actually think about it, and this could become a viable option, because this process isn't really harming anything. And this could and there's no issue with charging times. I mean, you can fill the tanks up quickly. You don't have to wait an hour or 2 hours to charge the thing. Yeah, and it has potential, but I think it needs to be worked on a lot more for it to be an actual great option. And right now, I don't know if the work is being put into it. It's just sad, but still, at least it is happening. And I think Toyota has one car that runs on hydrogen, and it's a recently good car. Relatively good car, I guess. And yeah, hydrogen, could this be a potential in the future? We'll have to wait and see. The main issue is the tanks and the amount of gas I can fill in, and the space it's taking up. It is an issue, and I don't know if that's something you can honestly fix. Can you manage to somehow put more hydrogen in smaller tanks? I don't know if that's possible. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see about that. But it's an interesting option. It's nice that there are alternative options that manufacturers are trying out, like hydrogen fuel and e-fuel by Porsche, and they're not giving up and just completely relying on EVs, because EVs aren't there yet.